And we are live. Let me get this link together.
What is up with everybody that's not watching right now? You're getting
What's
ready to
that?
go over a list. I'm just talking right now, so it's
Uh,
not too awkward and quiet. We're about to go over a list that Randy put together. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great, and then he's going to go over it, and then we're going to agree, disagree, most likely just talk shit.
Get this link.
Yeah.
Out
There'll
of-
be a lot.
out of
I
pure
know
fun.
there's. I know your opinions, and I know there's going to be a lot of disagreements
Yeah, Sting is number one.
on the WWE list.
Oh, no, WWE list. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
WWF, WWE. Yeah, I mean that one.
Okay.
That one run from Sting is not going to cut it.
No, they that was just Vince being Vince, dude.
True.
They could have done so many things. They should have put him against the Taker.
Yeah, I can't believe they missed that. That
They
was a
just
layup.
even Taker says, "What are they doing?"
Yeah, for real.
And when he showed up at WCW, it's like, why didn't you just put him against Brett right away? You're like, that was the easiest call.
Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
take people that everyone wants to see, just put them together.
That was the dream match when I was younger, man, and they just
Yeah.
fucked that all up. It's like,
It's
what's
crazy.
going on?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
One
let me
more.
know when we're starting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is interesting. WWE list. All right. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that.
Right.
What that sports caster or whatever, they put out their list, and we talked about it for a little bit. So I was like, we can make a better list than that. That list was shady. There was some whack shit on that list. So
Vince
I
had
came
his
to
hand in
right
there.
wrongs. Yeah.
Vince had his hand in that list. Was it Sportscast? I want to check that out.
Yeah, if you look up like top 50 WWE wrestlers of all
Alright.
time, you'll see it.
All right. Hopefully, some people will start tuning in a minute. Can one of y'all share? Can one of damn? Ain't none of y'all in the groups that I'm in to share it in, and I can't share it on this phone. So hopefully, people start tuning in on the BWO page here in a second.
What's the site that did the top 50
Let me get
that
that.
we're referencing here?
Mhm.
All right, looks like the next thing I'm investing in is a new webcam. That shit is ugly.
Was it Bleacher Report?
Bleacher? All right.
Yeah, Bleacher.
All right, I just add everyone on that. All right, we've been on for about 2 minutes. I just add everybody in the group, so hopefully we get some people viewing in here in a second. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. Welcome to the Elbow Drop Podcast. It is your host for the day. Bones is sick and shut in for the day, so he ain't gonna be with us. We got your boy Iceman Bobby Miller, one of the best admins in the group. Over to my
You're right.
right. We got Asian Ted. What up, Asian Ted?
What's up, man?
What's good?
Pacific Islander Ted. Asian people get
Islander Ted.
Get it correct.
Right, man. Well, I'm
That's
like
the
The Rock, not Chinese.
Yeah. Not Yokozuna.
Yeah, not Yokozuna. The Usos.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we you ran Dizzle today.
That's facts.
Either way, you always be wrong. But anyway,
We'll see. Yeah, I know you're gonna disagree with a ton of this, and I'm okay with that because I'm ready to defend all of this.
Oh, hell yeah.
let's go. So, some site that was shared in the group not too long ago, it had a top 50s wrestlers of all time list.
WWE, WWF wrestlers.
You said what?
It was WWE and WWF wrestlers, like only.
WWF wrestlers. Of just like any list that's published on these sites and on these blogs, of course, it was met with a lot of criticisms, a lot of hits, a lot of misses, this, that, and the third. So, like Randy always does, he decided to compile his list of top 50 WWF and WWE wrestlers, and we gonna go over that today and we gonna see how wrong he is today. Any caveats, any disqualifiers, any disclaimers that we need to know about before you start?
Okay, so the way that I did it is I tried to be as objective as possible, and I kind of went with a similar format that you do, where you take like the different attributes that make someone a great wrestler and kind of like average them out to the person who scores the best in like an aggregate of all of them. So the ones that I used, I had 7 categories. I didn't like actually give everyone a grade, but I just figured what it would be. Drawing power, accomplishments and accolades, position on the card, impact and influence, in-ring talent, mic work, character, charisma, talent is 1, and then longevity.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I don't like that second to last category being lumped into one, but we gonna roll with it.
Yeah, just to make it simple.
We gonna roll with it.
All right.
All right. So with that being said, what we're gonna do is he did 50, so we're gonna break it down 10 by 10. We're gonna focus, see what we think about each one of his 10 until we get down to the last top 10, and we're gonna talk about it. So let's go with what, 50 through 40?
50 through
41.
50 through 41. Yeah. All right. So 50, Gunther. 49, 49, Alundra Blaze. 48, Owen Hart.
Okay.
47, Mr. Perfect.
Okay.
46, Ted DiBiase.
Okay.
45, Razor Ramon / Scott Hall.
Okay.
44, Cody Rhodes. 43, Batista. 42, Lita. And 41, Sasha Banks.
Okay.
I know. I heard your voice when I said Cody Rhodes, and I will explain.
Already? You feel like he's been in the company for like a year.
I'm going with that.
That's. I mean,
I'm projecting. I am projecting a bit. I'm also projecting with Gunther a bit. There are so few wrestlers who have been put in a position where they are the face of the entire company, and Cody Rhodes is that right now. So as long as his reign ends up not going through a train wreck, and he has like a good solid reign and is able to be their top babyface for a while, he's gonna end up being on this list anyway. So I just basically put him above anybody who hasn't been a world champion. Cody, okay, so Lita over Cody. Lita has done more than Cody currently has. I think Cody will eventually eclipse her, but as of now, Lita's one of the most important women. She's held the world title multiple times. Batista, Batista was one of the 2 top faces of the company for years. Cody just hasn't done that yet. When he eventually does, he'll go higher. But so far, he just became the face of the company.
I actually kind of agree with him on. And my thing was Cody probably should have been a little lower because he's doing what he's doing now. He's the face of the company now. That run's just starting now. You gotta consider how he was Stardust and dashing Cody Rhodes and for about 15 years or so, or however long it was. That was a long time that he was mid compared to a year that he's been a guy.
Sure. Yeah. But consider Razor Ramon, Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, and Owen Hart are all under him. He's already accomplished more than all of them have in terms of position in the card. None of them ever won the world title. Ted DiBiase got gifted it in an angle, and it was immediately taken away and not recognized. The rest of them never won it at all. So Cody's already accomplished more than them.
This ain't the AEW list. This is about what they did in the big leagues.
Yes. Right. So he's low, but he's above people who I think he's already accomplished more than. And I would say Alundra Blaze was the woman of a fairly short era and was only in the company for like 3 years. So that's why she's a little bit lower. Gunther hasn't won the world title yet.
Was a trailblazer in that women's division, though.
Yeah.
Sure. I docked her on longevity because she wasn't in there for very long. She was in the company for 3 years.
Nigga, what other comment? I don't even know what he talking about.
She went to WCW.
Yeah, exactly.
She
Probably
was Medusa in WCW.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
Cody was top face for 2 years so far. That's produced more than Batista did. Face of the company isn't a title. I don't know because Batista, I mean, he was positioned at a fairly top level for way longer than Cody at a time while Cody was in the company too. I am a big we overrate Batista guy, but I mean,
Me too.
Facts is facts.
Yeah, he was equal to John Cena. The only reason that John Cena surpassed him was because Batista left.
Yeah, so
and I think Cena was better, but even then, like they were
Cena was
positioned
better.
about the same.
Yeah, SmackDown.
I don't have any real big gripes about this part of the list yet.
Okay.
As far as this group of 10, it's some people down there that's on there that I always have felt like were slightly overrated. Batista, Lita, but I mean,
it's like I got to see the rest of the list. It's like I want to know where everywhere else is positioned.
They were going to be on the list. They're about down there where I would put them myself.
Yeah, I mean,
gotcha. All right. So let me do the next 10.
Yeah.
All right.
That's true. Cena was better than Batista, but they were about on the same position of the card, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
on
right.
the card, they were the same.
All right. Next 10. Who we got?
40. And I hated putting her over Sasha, but objectively I had to. Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, that makes sense.
39, Daniel Bryan.
Okay.
38, Seth Rollins. 37, Kane. 36, Jeff Hardy. 35, Chyna. 34, Booker T. 33, Pat Patterson. 32, the Iron Sheik. And 31, Andre the Giant.
All right. So where do I start? Because I'm already getting to some. Where do we let's for the sake of Beast Mode Bones, let's get into Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I'll talk about both. Fuck Jeff Hardy.
Cody.
You leave Jeff Hardy alone, okay? You all leave Jeff Hardy alone.
You got a Jeff Hardy tattoo, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Oh man.
Oh, all right. So what do you? I'm assuming you guess he's too high, right? Like that's your issue.
Jeff Hardy is way too high.
Okay.
Is Matt on the list? Is he higher than Jeff?
No, Matt's not on the list. That would be really funny, right? But,
like what?
Okay. Multiple time world champion in the company.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most influential wrestlers ever, let alone in WWE, when it comes to tag team wrestling.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Think about what tag team wrestling looks like now. Like it looks like everybody's trying to do their version of TLC. Like that's what almost all tag team wrestling is at this point. And the Hardy Boys were one of the big faces of that. So there's that. He's a huge iconic figure. You could go to a random group of people and they'll probably know who he is.
There were two other equals to all of that, though, to that TLC. That's not you can't just credit that to Jeff Hardy, let alone you can't just credit that to the Hardy Boys, let alone just Jeff Hardy.
No,
Jeff was whack on the mic though. Like
he was whack on the mic. I will agree.
Whack on the mic compared to like Charlotte. Like Charlotte's lower than him.
Charlotte,
like,
Charlotte has had significantly less influence. We're talking influence and impact was one of them too. He's way more influential than she's been.
I mean, Impact during that era, but from research that I've done and from stuff that I've heard, people do credit Motor City Machine Guns for a lot of the style of tag team wrestling today, and we done woke the beast.
Motherfucker, how you talking about goddamn that Jeff Hardy is the reason that motherfucker? Have you when you see when last time you think about so every tag team match you see, motherfuckers is falling off shit. No, every so often we have a match like that, so you can't say that they influence all the tag teams. When you watch motherfucking tag team wrestling, they not just falling off shit. They trying to wrestle.
how
People
many
wrestle now.
tag teams are very obviously influenced directly off of them? Like how
Name
many?
one, and I would tell you that they aren't.
Well, the Young Bucks are the.
The Young Bucks are how? I ain't
They're-
never in my motherfucking life seen Jeff Hardy do a super kick.
They're
They're also
they're
they're
Shawn
also
Michaels
Shawn
kids.
Michaels wannabe, but they're stunt people who do a lot of extreme matches where they fall off shit and fly, and
But they
have
do
long
more
hair.
than fall off shit. So like falling off shit is if falling off shit is the main thing that you do, then I would agree with you. But there's no team who their main draw is that they fall off shit. Everybody else tries to do some other shit. Even the Young Bucks are trying to do some acrobatic shit. Jeff Hardy don't do acrobatic shit. He fall off shit. Like, so that's a horrible example. And even so, if you really give him credit for being one of the influences for tag team wrestling, that means you would have to give more credit to Matt Hardy because Matt Hardy made him do this falling shit. You have to give more credit to the Dudley Boys. You have to give more credit to Edge and Christian.
Okay,
So
hold on.
all the motherfuckers that be higher than Jeff Hardy.
Edge is higher than Jeff Hardy. He's the only
Okay.
one.
All the motherfuckers that be higher than Jeff Hardy.
No. Because of those names that you listed, there's only 3 that have been world champion in the company.
That's fair.
The Dudley Boys had no success on singles. Matt Hardy basically had no success in singles. Christian was given a world title for a fairly brief period of time just because
Higher than Jeff
he
Hardy.
retired. So the only one that has accomplished more as a single is Edge. So
He
none of the other ones
accomplished
have
more than him,
warranted.
though.
I mean, I thought it was
Which is he's a lot higher.
It's about the amount of weight you put on titles, then sure. I mean, I guess I can't disagree. But then if that's the case, then like, why isn't Kane way higher?
Kane only had he had a SmackDown world title for like I don't know 100 or so days,
I tell you
and he
why
held the
Kane's-
WWE title very briefly.
I tell you why.
And he had
My
ECW
name is
title.
Kane. That's why. My name is Kane.
All right, I'm out.
Yeah.
I just wanted to come here. I just wanted to come here because you was being real incorrect about saying that Jeff Hardy influenced all the tag teams.
He influenced a lot of them,
I
quite a
will-
lot of them.
I will say this about Jeff
He
Hardy.
influenced a match type with
Yeah.
5 other people. He
Also,
doesn't deserve
did
much
that.
credit.
Also,
And
he did
Rhino.
that.
And Rhino was there too.
Jeff Hardy influenced
And
one
Rhino was
person.
there too.
Jeff Hardy influenced one person. Jeff Hardy Jr.
You gotta-
That's it. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Darby Allin. That's it. That's it.
Oh,
That's all you can put on Jeff Hardy.
didn't he get hit by a bus? That's fucking crazy. The one thing I will say nice about Jeff Hardy that he's pretty fun to play in like wrestling video games.
That
Yeah.
is true.
He's
He would.
pretty fun to play.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the weight that you put on those brief title runs that he had is way too high.
He had several title reigns. That's more than almost anybody under him.
The one Jeff Hardy match I do like think that I remember like sticking in my mind, like the singles one is the one versus Taker where he lost and he kept on getting up.
Yeah.
You remember that one? That's probably his best match, I think. Like
What I should have had you send that list to me so I can be looking at it to make sure I didn't forget nothing. The other thing I had, it's nitpicky, but Charlotte over Sasha Banks.
Charlotte has held more titles. She's much better on the mic, and she has been positioned higher on the card.
She's
than
not.
Sasha.
and she goes really hard in the ring too, man. You can't deny her
I
in the
don't
ring.
feel like she's positioned that much further on the mic as Sasha.
I don't think it's
they
close.
both have main evented WrestleMania.
They both did. Charlotte did it first. Now, so yeah, I mean, she has been the world. Sasha had most of her world titles ended in her first defense. She only had one title reign that didn't. And it was
She's
to
always
set up
been like a
Bianca.
transitional champion, which sucks. And I love Sasha, but she's always like a transitional champion.
Yeah, and she didn't deserve that, but it did happen.
Yeah,
the last
she
world
doesn't.
title reign only basically existed to set up Bianca beating her.
I think Sasha the GOAT. And your favorite women's wrestler had their best match against Sasha. But that's biased.
That's like an argument for Triple H too.
Yeah,
Your favorite wrestler had a match against Triple H.
I'm just agree with that, but I would have to really look into it. Like I had to really look into Sasha when Bones actually said that to me first. I was like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
you're right.
Yeah.
Let's keep it moving next to the next 10. We've been on this for a while here.
Okay. All right. So, all right.
Fucking
30,
Jeff Hardy.
30 is Kofi Kingston.
Okay.
29, Trish Stratus. 28, Rey Mysterio.
Whoa.
27, Jimmy Superfly Snuka. 26, Randy Orton. 25, Bob Backlund. 24, Billy Graham. 23, Roddy Piper. 22, Mick Foley. 21, Edge.
You saying all those old motherfuckers reminded me that about somebody on the past list on the other 10 that I was supposed to say something about, and that was Pat Patterson.
Okay.
Kind of high. I mean, ain't his greatest accolade was becoming like the first Intercontinental Champion or something like that? And
He was the
that, I'm not sure what Pat Patterson did to be over some of those names that you mentioned.
he was the first Intercontinental Champion. He was very influential in a lot of different match styles, like brawling styles became popularized. He wasn't the first one, obviously, but he was considered part of the influential stage. In terms of what he did for WWE, I did incorporate, if they did like booking stuff, I did incorporate that to some extent. Him coming up with the Royal Rumble, for instance.
Okay.
He was a kind of a weird one to place, but I think based off of his influence, I think you can put him there.
Workers instead of what they did in booking decisions and stuff like that.
I'm more so including it for like what he did for the company, and that was something that he did for the company. Yes, I know you can separate them if you want.
If that's the case, Dusty should have been on.
Dusty should be up there. Chris Jericho should be up
Not
there.
up here, but on the list back there somewhere. If we're counting what they've done for the company and everything, into incorporating that with their time wrestling in the company.
The reason why I didn't put Dusty Rhodes on is because Dusty Rhodes really only added to the company as a booker. He when he was a wrestler, they completely devalued him, so he didn't do much as an actual wrestler in WWE.
He's a WCW guy.
Yeah, like if it was an all-time wrestlers, Dusty Rhodes would be really high.
He's a WCW guy.
But in just for WWE and WWF, the main thing that he did was NXT.
I don't feel like Pat Patterson should have been that high. Even with the contribution that you said, he still, if he was gonna be on there, he should have been in them 40s.
Yeah, and if I don't know, man, and I think Andre should have been higher too, honestly, because that dude, like, just I wasn't really alive during that time, but
I'll explain Andre.
Your grandparents know who Andre the Giant is.
I'll explain Andre. Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Like Andre had a crazy.
I agree.
He was bigger than wrestling.
Anything.
He was bigger than wrestling at that time when he was it.
If I really wanted to nitpick and argue, I would have had Andre even lower than where he put him. But I respect where he put Andre for that reason.
Yeah, like he couldn't work at all in the ring. Like he's basically a zero in the ring. He was a zero on the mic because he literally couldn't talk.
But
he won the world title and then immediately gave it to Ted DiBiase, so he doesn't have any like accolades. I get why they didn't do that because you don't want to beat your giant,
right?
But he didn't. He was never positioned that way. So, and he also didn't wrestle for the company really long either.
But he was the draw. He was the draw in wrestling. Where Andre went, like every territory, that's when they sold tickets. He went to their territory, beat everybody up. They made a bunch of money. He left that territory. Like what he did for the business. If Pat Patterson is up there, then like just due to accolades, draw power and just what they do for the business, bringing popularity or whatever. I think Andre is way up there as far as like. Because
but it's the only thing of wrestling.
I don't know any other wrestler that existed.
It's the only
Andre the Giant.
It's because it's the only category he did well in.
Just in WWE.
Yeah, but that's what's real in wrestling. Miles, and you know what I mean. Miles and the money is real, and he was it. Miles and money. No one toured more than him. He was probably the biggest draw. Like he had a custom house. He had to. You gotta have custom everything. I mean, so it's like he had all that money, and he was I don't know, man. And and without him, like losing to Hogan,
and
no
again,
Hulkamania, no Hulkamania, no Hulkamania, and no WWF.
But also,
I disagree.
Hulkamania didn't start there.
Before WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, Hulkamania was already a thing.
It was because Hulkamania was running wild the previous 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Iron Sheik was the one that started Hulkamania.
Yeah, but really, that shit sucked. Not to be fucked up. How many fucking like other media just use that stature? Hogan looking at Andre, like Street Fighter uses it.
Oh yeah,
fucking, you know what I mean? That's culturally. Andre's face still sells pictures. They don't even people wear his shirt. Don't even know what he did. You know what I mean? It's like 100%. His cultural impact is insane to me. It's
his impact is a 10, his drawing power is a 10, but if you're going to be a 0 in most of the categories,
like Jeff Hardy,
he's not. He's not. Yeah, like you got to put him somewhere, and I thought that's where he averaged.
I mean, I respect his decision. I was just sharing my opinion about Andre because
I get it.
There's like 3 more points on that list I'm trying to remember that I had to make. The first one is right here. You got Kofi that high?
Kofi, first fully black WWE champion, half of what was the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history until like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So between those two things alone, yeah, I very good in the ring, great character worker. The New Day as a whole, which he was a big part of, sold tons of merch. They sell cereal in like regular stores. Their gaming and streaming shit that they do, like everything. Like him and New Day together is a big brand, and he's the most successful of the 3.
This is putting Andre 3000 on the best rappers list and disrespecting Big Boy. That's what this is. Where's Big E?
Hold on.
Big E.
He's my best friend. Big E's my friend.
Big E. Big E didn't have the longevity that Kofi did. His title reign wasn't as important as Kofi's was because Kofi's came first. So I mean, those are the two things that kind of work against Big E. Big E was only like a top guy for a pretty short amount of time.
And
Big E wore that title well.
I love Big E.
Title well. He was doing press conferences, doing TV shows.
He was screwed.
It was nice seeing Big E up there, man. He was well spoken, man. I don't know, dude. Fuck Brock Lesnar.
And then he lost it right there in 9 seconds to Brock Lesnar.
His title reign was 180 days. It wasn't that short. Like that's a pretty decent title reign.
I will say Kofi's Kofi Mania was pretty epic.
Yeah,
Kofi versus Daniel Bryan. Oh my god, that whole he was an awesome heel.
Yeah, he's gonna like if you think about if you just separate like black history for black wrestlers, Kofi's going to go down as one of the most important black wrestlers ever because of that, and also everything with New Day. But if you think about just his legacy in that's big. We don't think of it like that now because it just recently happened, but it will be considered one of the biggest things in black wrestling history.
I feel like really, but no one really celebrates Farouk. Nobody celebrates Farouk.
We celebrate Farouk.
Really? Come on. How many times on WWE do like really?
Because it was the WCW title. It wasn't their title.
But they'll show NWO shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's still history.
It is, and it's
they'll yell ECW all day long.
He probably talking about my doorstop right here.
A paintball. It's so okay. Yeah. No. So I mean, I think in ring is good. Mike is good.
Top guy wasn't that long, and then you're equating all of his tag team success to him, basically.
Yeah, there's 3 people in that tag team.
That for him to be that high. If you're gonna respect his championship reign and put him on the list, he's another one that should have been in those.
And I feel like if the New Day was listening to this, they count as one.
His championship.
New Day is one person, bro.
He put Cody in his run that he's had recently. You need to respect that more, and he should have been higher.
Wait, Cody over Kofi?
Or a top guy than Kofi is. Respectfully.
Cody was a top guy without wearing the belt.
But also, you have to keep in mind, like, your whole thing about, well, Cody was only there for 2 years as a top guy. That's true, right? Like, he only has been a top guy for a short period of time, and we haven't seen what he's going to do with it yet. That's why he's lower. I think he will eventually eclipse Kofi, too, at some point, if they book him right. He hasn't done it yet.
I remember when Cody first showed up at WWE, he was kind of hated.
Just like Cody, you got to consider Kofi Kingston before New Day, which was a lot of mid.
This shit.
It was, but we're not separating them. We're including his whole career, which includes the stuff that was not mid.
I like that Jamaican shit.
Be higher. In that case, you're saying if Kofi Kingston wasn't mid for about 10 years before New Day, then he would be a top 5, top 10 wrestler in the company. I disagree with that.
No, that's not what I'm saying. If
you push it forward a little bit, let's get the next 10 real quick.
Okay, all right. Hold it. Wait, hold it. Okay, let me get the next 10, and then we can go back if you want to hit.
Other we can go back. We just got to hear the next. We got to finish the list though.
Okay.
Before the end of the show.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's go.
All right, 20 Becky Lynch.
Okay.
19 Bret Hart. 18 Chris Jericho.
Okay.
17 Eddie Guerrero. 16 Kurt Angle. 15 CM Punk. 14 Pedro Morales. 13 Brock Lesnar. 12 Triple H. 11 Fabulous Moolah.
Moolah?
She was the champion for like. She was the champion for like how many years?
So the fuck what?
What do you mean? So the fuck what? She was women's wrestling for decades.
What was women's wrestling for decades?
Not to be fucked up, but
it
was her and Medusa and Luna. Those are the 3 girls I know. Luna and Medusa are over the I knew.
You talking about the woman who basically, and we'll get to that in a minute. I think Triple H should be hired too. But you talking about the woman who basically killed women's wrestling and made it a fucking monopoly.
She dominated an entire gender of wrestling.
Did she dominate, or did she fucking kill everybody below her?
So did Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan has to be high on a list, even though he did the same thing, right? Would you lower Hulk Hogan for that?
No. Hogan actually benefited the company. Hogan actually helped the whole company as a whole as that top guy. Moolah didn't help shit. Moolah didn't put that women's division on the map or anything. If anything, the women's division fucking flourished after her.
The first Goldberg.
Well, so for a couple of things.
Goldberg's
First of all, it's hard to compare the drawing power that a man who's the dominant world champion is to a woman who's a dominant world champion, right?
You tried to do it though. You're the one that brought it up.
No, that wasn't my point. My point was that so Hulk Hogan buried everyone beneath him and became the top star. At that time, basically up until like the last decade, whoever was the male top star was the top star. They were the top draw. She was the top star for the women's division, and she was a big individual draw for herself. She was really the only woman who was for a really long period of time between Mildred Burke and like the Medusa period. She was women's wrestling for that long.
She had enough pimping power that she fucking pimped them bitches out the industry.
Yeah, it's true, but it did happen.
If you her a top number 11 all time in WWE,
yeah,
all those women that you mentioned have had a bigger impact on what WWE's women division is today than Fabulous Moolah.
I definitely don't agree with that.
I 100% agree. The fucking women's revolution and the 4 horsewomen are the most important thing to happen to women's wrestling.
I'm not saying I'm old time wrestling fan, but before the 4 horsewomen, I never watched girls wrestling. I just didn't watch it.
Well, yeah, but you're also talking about like the Divas period, right?
Well, women's wrestling.
Hold on. Okay, one person at a time. Okay, Bobby, go.
Mm-hmm. Yes, one person at a time. The only thing that can be argued against that point is the whole Trish Lita period or the whole what's her name over in TNA the Knockouts division.
But this is also very
two more important things than the four that can be argued as more important than the four horsewomen in women's wrestling.
See,
the women's revolution is arguably the most important thing to happen to women's wrestling.
But this is more of that, like, because the bias for the things that we personally saw, right? Like, so much of what wrestling became was influenced way before us. And if we're going to be objective about the things that it influenced, the most impactful, influential things, the most impactful, influential things will have happened before us, because that's when wrestling was becoming what it was. So none of those women would have been anywhere if Fabulous Moolah hadn't shown that there can be a top woman who can be a draw. She was like the second person to do that after Mildred Burke.
If that's the case, George Washington, influential president of all time.
I mean, he's one of them for sure. For sure, like
he's not the most influential though. That's the point. If you know anything about American history, he's not the most influential president. Just because you're the first doesn't automatically make you the most influential.
It just boggles my mind that she's over. That's crazy.
She held the title for like 1,000 years. He held the title for like a day. That's why.
The last 5 years, your influence can be greater than that of 30 years ago. It's possible. It can happen.
Oh, it can. I just don't think this is an example of that.
It's like how influential. It's like I don't know. It's like
today's women's wrestling that was impacted by Fabulous Moolah.
Any woman being a top draw in their company at all.
No, because Fabulous Moolah was never the top draw in her company.
She was just kind of there. She was like a space filler. Like, I mean, she had a title, but it's like the equivalent of like the television cruiserweight. You know what I mean? Like she was that kind of caliber.
She was no, she wasn't literally the top draw of the company.
Has more influence than Fabulous Moolah.
Who did?
Alundra Blaze, Medusa.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Alundra Blaze.
She was only with the company for 3 years. How could she have been more impactful to the company?
Japanese style of wrestling. She was actually one of the first women to have women come over there and actually work. Moolah wasn't out there working during that era.
No, that's true, but also nobody was. That's standard. That standard can't be treated.
WWE was never the place for women's wrestling until recently. There was always the other companies that had better women's wrestling until recently.
More and I've
like the last 30 years.
My thoughts about how overrated I think Trish is as well. But Trish is more influential to what we see today in wrestling than Fabulous Moolah. Trish Rita.
We see, I mean, that's if you want to think about it in those terms of like the kind of work style, then literally nobody from that period except maybe like Lou Thesz can be considered influential, right? Because the way they wrestled was different because they were presenting it as real. But
they're not. You're right.
Yeah, but this wouldn't exist without that. Like none of this would exist without that.
This existence doesn't equate to influence all the time. Just because it wouldn't exist without it doesn't mean that that it will be more influential. A motherfucker wouldn't be here without their deadbeat dad. That doesn't mean that their deadbeat dad was more influential than their stepdad who was there their whole life.
Well, you can argue that it's positive versus negative influence, but it is influence. You're basically arguing that her influence was negative, not necessarily that she didn't have one.
But you have heard of me.
I don't feel like she's had that. Her influence is that big in women's wrestling. Her Fabulous Moolah's impact is not felt in today's women's wrestling.
So, okay, because Bruno Sammartino is obviously going to be in the top 10.
Yeah, so let's finish up the list. It's getting close.
All right, fine. Okay, let's do the top 10. All right, number 10.
Biggest thing that I had a problem with, but
okay. Top 10, Macho Man Randy Savage is 10. 9, John Cena. 8, Hulk Hogan. 7, Roman Reigns. 6, Undertaker. 5, Buddy Rogers. 4, The Rock. 3, Shawn Michaels. 2, Bruno Sammartino. 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay. Okay.
This man has Buddy Rogers and Bruno Sammartino over Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
You got Hulk Hogan in the top 5. I can't.
Hulk Hogan. That's
Be careful, you're about to stand for Hulk Hogan.
I don't want to. You're forcing me to. I don't want to.
Look what you made me do.
Forcing my hand. Because we're not finna sit here and act like Hulk Hogan is arguably the biggest thing to ever happen to all of pro wrestling.
Okay. The entire thing
in WWE.
How much do you know about Buddy Rogers? A legitimate question. How much do you know about him?
Enough.
Okay. Hulk Hogan's entire thing wouldn't have existed without Buddy Rogers.
That shit.
The first Nature Boy?
Well, yeah, Ric Flair's too.
Whole style wouldn't exist without David Thompson. Are you gonna put David Thompson over Michael Jordan?
Jerry West? You gonna put him against Michael Jordan?
No, but this is widely different.
Jerry West?
But Buddy Rogers.
Not different. That's actually the closest analogy that I've had to this whole goddamn thing.
Buddy Rogers was the first ever WWE champion, and even that's an incredible influence. And
that's not an influence. You're just the first one. Just because you're the, I think
if you go and look up into the numbers,
use influence for the first ever thing that happened. Not every single time is the first thing that happens is the most influential. Well, that's not how it works all the time.
Well, I have Stone Cold above both of them, so I am aware of that. But that being said, Buddy Rogers, you cannot argue he's not one of the most influential wrestlers ever. Every single beach blonde heel, cocky, arrogant, robe wearing, whatever heel gimmick was a direct influence of Buddy Rogers. That's why Ric Flair is also called the Nature Boy.
Stunning Steve Austin?
Yeah. Also, you could argue that too, 100%. He influenced almost every heel that you see in wrestling was a direct influence of him. If you Google the top biggest box office draws in wrestling history, Buddy Rogers is in that top 10. Bruno Sammartino is also in that top 10. Yes, Hulk Hogan is also, right? But Hulk Hogan wouldn't have existed without them. They were an even bigger influence than Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan was influenced by them on top of it. So, I mean, that's the real reason why. If you look at the nucleus of wrestling, Hulk Hogan wouldn't have even been what he was if Buddy Rogers wasn't what he was. And he came up with that on his own. Nobody was doing that before him.
Now let me negate all of that. The basis of that whole argument goes immediately back to the David Thompson, Michael Jordan argument. David Thompson was one of the first flashy players coming from the ABA and everything and implementing that style. People like him, people like Dr. J, before Michael Jordan ever touched the basketball. If there wasn't if there wasn't that ABA style of basketball, there would be no Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. There would that flashy style that Michael Jordan played with, that his whole swagger as a basketball player wouldn't be there without them. So if we're going by your logic, every player that we talk about that emulates Michael Jordan, it wouldn't be no Kobe Bryant's, it wouldn't be no LeBron James's if it wasn't for Dr. J, if it wasn't for David Thompson. Therefore, they should be higher up on that list. And that's not how it works. Just because that one person is influenced from that person doesn't mean that, okay, now that person is just automatically the influence of everything after that.
But there's
not how it works.
But
that came from Rogers. Yes, Ric Flair took that. But everybody that did it after Ric Flair clearly were influenced by Ric Flair doing it, not Buddy Rogers. And I'm not disrespecting Buddy Rogers, but he's not top 10 WWE all time. That's a whole different.
There's a difference. This is why you can't use. This is why you can't make a direct comparison between real sports and wrestling, because if you're going to judge a basketball player or a football player or a baseball player or whatever, because it's a competitive sport, you can't judge them by the same criteria that you would an act, right? Michael Jordan isn't the best player because he was the most influential or the flashiest.
That's part of it. Yes, he is.
That's part of it. But the real reason, the real reason, more than anything, is because he won a lot and put up great stats. Because it's a competitive sport.
It's not about not living in that area. I'm not negating that those early folks in the 80s didn't get that from Buddy Rogers. But like I keep saying, if that's the case, then you have to use the sports parallel. Everybody that's dunking on people and motherfucking sticking their tongues out and using the motherfucking shimmy fadeaway got it from David Thompson and Dr. J then. So in that case, they should be higher than Michael Jordan, right?
No, because it's a competitive sport. You don't judge them by their influence in performance because they're not purely performers.
What's the difference?
Because you have to win games to be good at playing the game. Wrestling doesn't work the same way. Yeah, but not as much.
So it's an exact parallel.
Michael Jordan is considered the GOAT because he dominated competitively against his opponents. The fact that he was also a cultural icon added to that.
Part of what you're doing is list bias dominance.
It's not competitive dominance. Wrestling's not a real sport. Wrestling's not a real sport.
Criteria you said at the beginning of the goddamn show.
Yes, they're dominating the show. Yes, but it's a different concept. You're not literally actually competing against other wrestlers.
It doesn't matter. If you're gonna use that as a criteria, you gotta use that as a criteria. It's direct parallels. They're both a sport, so you have to do
They're not
parallels.
They're not. Comparing a wrestler to an athlete doesn't make sense.
Buddy outside of the wrestlers that wrestled in the 80s.
Wait, are you asking me or are you asking the commentator?
I'm talking to both of y'all. I'm multitasking here.
All right, what was your question?
Put some in the comments that actually mentioned, yes, Buddy Rogers is my influence and not Ric Flair. The ones that did it after Ric Flair.
That doesn't make sense because they didn't exist at the time when Buddy Rogers was wrestling. But if you ask people from the 80s, they'll all say Buddy Rogers, Ric Flair being one of them.
But people after that are influenced more by Ric Flair than Buddy Rogers.
Yeah, because they're younger. That doesn't prove anything. That's
the whole point. If Buddy Rogers was only an influence to those people that did it. And then those people influenced another generation, like Michael Jordan influenced another generation.
Because
I think Buddy Rogers, safe to say, is a wrestler's pick. Like if you were an active pro wrestler, you probably say a wrestler would say that.
Wrestlers would 100% pick Buddy Rogers. If you ask like an older wrestler from around that time,
we can put him on the goddamn so I can cuss his dumb ass out too.
I'm just saying, it's like
pissing me off with this goddamn shit.
Buddy Rogers is really upsetting you.
Yes.
Yes, he's upsetting you so much.
Yes.
The Nature Boy, the first Nature Boy.
The first.
Nobody gives a flying fuck about Buddy Rogers.
Scott Steiner does.
Lots of people get
what?
Like it would.
What?
Like it's silly to be like, well, this wrestler who was born in the 90s wasn't influenced by Buddy Rogers. Like, yeah, of course he wasn't, because he was born in the 90s. Like that's not the criteria you would use. The wrestler that influenced that wrestler was influenced by Buddy Rogers.
What is the influence? Because I'll tell you right now, the motherfuckers that's wrestling in 2022 is influenced by old ass Ric Flair, who came into the motherfucking game in the 70s.
He was wrestling.
I feel like this would have a lot better if we can see the scorecards.
Motherfuckers is still Stone Cold.
Stone Cold was a wrestler in the.
Influenced by motherfucking Dusty Rhodes.
Stone Cold was a wrestler while I was a kid. Like most of these wrestlers literally saw him, and that's true. But Ric Flair was a wrestler in the 80s and late 90s. People saw him that are wrestling right now. That's why that doesn't make sense. active wrestlers saw these people.
Old ass wrestlers to this generation. The 90s, the motherfuckers that was wrestling in the 90s saw motherfucking Buddy Rogers. That was your argument from the beginning. That folks from the 90s aren't gonna be
Yo, Bobby. So
they're influenced by the ideas he created. He created all these ideas that got passed from generation to generation.
But the point is, Dr. J ain't gonna be that high on the list.
Because it's a competitive sport, you can't judge it the same. It's judging a wrestler is a lot closer to judging like a musician or an actor than it is like an athlete.
About winning, Bobby, then John Cena is not number one, or Ric Flair, and that's just not true. John Cena ain't number one. He didn't put John Cena number one.
Yeah, I put Stone Cold number one.
So Bobby, if you had a top 10, would you place Buddy Rogers on that list?
No.
At all.
All right, let's hear your top 10 because you guys were supposed to have top 10s too.
I didn't make it because we said we were gonna go with yours. I would have to sit down and actually think about it.
Okay.
I'm surprised Booker T is not on your list.
Booker T is on my list.
Where was he?
He was in the 30s.
I did.
He was in the 30s.
Greatest wrestler of all time. I can tell y'all that.
Oh, we were just so upset about everybody else, I guess.
Yes.
We were so upset about Moolah.
But Booker T is 34.
34. Okay.
Was he expecting me to fucking contradict his whole thing? Where 613 Fame Productions? Where the fuck?
So Bobby, real quick, to bring some organization to this. What about Randy's list is most offensive to you? Which one was it? Was it Moolah? Was it Cody? Or was it Buddy Rogers? Which one of these decisions upsets you the most and why?
Buddy fucking Rogers.
Buddy fucking Rogers.
I think that's the easiest to defend of all three of those.
No.
I personally have never seen a Buddy Rogers match, but I know of his influence.
Rogers, man.
Yes,
but if you put up a picture of Buddy Rogers next to all these old wrestlers, I wouldn't be able to tell you who he is.
Think about the criteria that
Bruno being number 2 because I'm still stuck on Buddy Rogers being higher than fucking Hulk Hogan, who changed wrestling to the fucking what it is now.
Okay,
WrestleMania is the biggest biggest wrestling show in the fucking world yearly. And it all stems because of Hulk Hogan.
Okay, consider the criteria that I opened this up with. Now, consider how that applies to each person that I named. Okay, accomplishments and accolades. Well, Buddy Rogers was the first WWE champion and also one of the longest reigning WWE champions. So he's going to have to be a 10 there. Impact and influence.
I just said Flair was number 1, idiot.
I can't admit.
Well, it's a WWE list. Flair wouldn't be number 1 in a purely WWE list.
Okay, yeah, Flair wouldn't be number 1 on
yeah. Right. Okay, so impact and influence. He's obviously a 10. Almost every heel in wrestling ever got their thing either from him or from somebody who was influenced by him. So he's a 10 there. Longevity, well, he was with the company for an incredibly long time. Box office drawing power. He's still box office individual draw standards, a top 10 draw of all time in wrestling. So just if you get a 10 out of 10 in all 4 of those, obviously he's going to be high on a list. Like, how could you even argue that at that point? The criteria fits him perfectly. And the only things that he's weak on are things that weren't really even a thing at that time. Like, nobody was a great in-ring worker by modern standards at that time, so you can't really compare him in that regard. But that's really it. What else would you knock him for?
I don't know, bro. I kind of enjoy watching that old wrestling shit, man. Just that twist that motherfucking arm, talk shit to the crowd, call people fat asses. That's just wrestling. Hey,
I like
fat bro, what you looking at? I'm gonna break this dude's arm.
Focus on the comments that I tuned out.
Yeah, I didn't even see all the comments, dude. I'm sorry, you guys. I was just trying to keep it moving, man. We were arguing so much. I was just trying to keep it moving.
I can't. I'm hyper focused back in on he's top 10 in all of those categories.
Okay.
Now I want you to go back. Now I kind of.
Where would you place Hogan on a list 1 through 5? Real quick, using his list, where would you put? Where would you rearrange his list? The top 5 with the wrestlers he used.
The top 5.
Yeah, where would you What would you rearrange? Like
how much higher would you put Hogan than I put him?
Hogan's Hogan's number 2. Hogan's Mount Rushmore.
Number 2.
Under what? Also Stone Cold.
Yeah, Stone. Either one of them can be argued 1A and 1B, depending on how you argue it.
Okay.
And I know this might seem controversial, but
Hogan on the Elbow Drop podcast before, just for argument's sake. But Stone Cold was the top draw at the height of the company, the most popular company has ever been.
Yes. Yeah. Also, I put him above them for that. That's part of it. But also because Hulk Hogan was a horrible in-ring wrestler and Stone Cold was not. So he's higher than him in that category. He could be both a face and a heel. Well, I mean, it was a terrible decision to make him a heel, but he played it well. Hogan was never a heel in WWE, only in WCW. So
he was the biggest heel ever
in WCW.
Yeah. Ever. WCW was bigger than WWE because of Hogan.
But this is a WWE list.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just keep that in mind. Where Hogan went, like everybody else went also.
Yeah, and also
WWE was number 2 when Hogan went to WCW.
Also, people got sick of Hogan. Nobody ever got sick of Austin.
I don't know, man. I kind of love that NWO shit, bro.
Well, that's why they had to turn him heel, because people.
The red and yellow shit was whack to me.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
To get sick of Austin, and like I said, wrestling was so hot at that time. We were gonna latch on to who we liked at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll say
the mid card was good when
I
we were
say
kids.
Regardless,
in the 90s, the mid card was amazing.
Yeah, so that's, Stone Cold was consistently, he's one of the few top baby faces to never at any point have the crowd turn on him. That's big, right? Like almost every other one had it at some point.
His run was a lot shorter than any babyface run for him that people got tired of.
Sure, that is also true, but I don't think it. I mean, we don't know, right? Like we don't know what would have eventually happened. But he was so beloved that turning him heel damaged the company.
And real quick though, where did you place Taker?
Taker was 6.
To be honest, I think that's high for Taker. I know his longevity is crazy and like the WrestleMania streak, but
influence
upper mid Carter at best. Like he was never the guy. He was always a transitional champion.
Okay, so hold on. If you want it,
Taker is either Mount Rushmore or like
he's up there as far as best workers ever, longevity, but as far as like all time, like the best, the biggest,
best character in wrestling history.
Best character,
most iconic character in wrestling history. 100%. Like most people say that when I hear wrestlers.
Yeah, Undertaker definitely.
That's usually their answer. He's a much better in-ring worker than most people from his era. At least he eventually got to that point. So yeah, I mean, like
I'm saying he was a really good wrestler, but it's like he was never top of the card to where it's like all these other guys that were placed way below him.
But also, remember what I said about Andre, where it's like, I understand why they didn't put the title on him. Think about why they wouldn't have consistently had Taker with the championship, because he would have consistently had to lose it. And you don't want to do that to your big, scary monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there was a reason for it. But he did hold the championship. I mean, it wasn't, he didn't have like, he was never, he wasn't
kind of funny. It's like,
but he held it a few times for decent amounts of times each.
But that's like your argument with Buddy Rogers' influence to other wrestlers. Like Taker's big influence was Andre.
Yeah.
Like there would be no Taker with no Andre. And that's like there would, it's like, and like no Hogan. I really honestly believe that.
But think about that. Just think about where it is
if Andre didn't lose to Hogan.
But think about the nucleus there, right? Like the only real similarity they have is just Andre was also tall. Like that's the act was entirely different.
It's more or less, it's not, they're an attraction.
Yeah, they're both.
You know what I mean? It's like
attractions.
Like they're he was. I mean, this motherfucker was named like what 8th wonder of the world.
Yeah,
and it's crazy to me. China's not on the list either. I know she was a whack wrestler. Oh, she is on the list. We were arguing so much.
Where'd you put her?
Where'd you put China?
I think 35, right under Booker T. Yeah, 35.
We must have missed a lot of the 30s,
bro. It was between Booker T and Jeff Hardy.
Yeah,
Jeff Hardy fucked up that whole. He fucked up. We forgot everything and mentioned Jeff Hardy. Like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, China is basically almost the exact same case for Andre, right? Like huge draw, big influence, but also a terrible wrestler.
Yeah. Well,
with that being said, you were wrong as fuck about Buddy Rogers, and in the words of Bones, shut the fuck up.
Are you trying